The writer reads flash fiction from another 365 days of flash fiction. Month 3, Day 2. Chanther's Chance. Chanther watched the chrysalis open. She held her breath, trying to capture the image, the perfection of the moment in her mind's eye. The colors swirled across its surface, and she held her breath. The muscarex were hard enough to find in larval form, but this, it was a gift. A crack echoed around the chamber, and the ants that had groomed the chrysalis to shining perfection scattered. Chanther frowned as they vanished into the holes and crevices along the walls, to reappear moments later, more heavily burdened than when they'd left. Chanther stared. Each of the 10 attendants carried a squirming bundle. Some had giant glow beetles from the cavern beyond, and another had pinned a Darather between its mandibles, the shape-shifting elf swearing a dark streak as he was brought to stand before the chrysalis, his voice fading as he saw what lay before him. At last, he breathed, growing still in the ant's jaws as though enchanted by what he saw. The chrysalis shattered, a sudden network of cracks marring its surface, and the adult form of the muscarex emerged. Chanther barely covered her mouth in time to stop the emerging scream. The elf started swearing and struggling again, and the newly emerged muscarex turned its head toward him. Only it wasn't something new and exotic. It was a creature she knew. Beautiful, yes, but ruthless and deadly and feared wherever it was found. The Havarex sat quietly, inflating its rumpled wings, its body vibrating as its carapace expanded and solidified. Now would have been the best time to try and sneak away, but there were too many other creatures in the cavern, and she didn't dare. She'd been planning on leaving once they'd all left. That seemed like a really stupid plan now. Chanther wanted to close her eyes, but didn't want to look away either. Until now, no one had known the link. The muscarex, the waspish Havarex were one and the same. It was no wonder muscarex were so rare. Havarex nests were burned, their eggs destroyed, the wasps themselves killed wherever they were found. That the ants. Movement interrupted her thoughts as the ants raced forward, dropped their burdens, and fled. Chanther wanted to flee too, but didn't dare move. The Havarex pounced, taking down the most dangerous thing in the cavern first, the Darathuran elf. He managed 2 steps before it stung him and rode his falling body to the ground. Once there, it stung him again as though to make sure, and then went after one of the glow beetles. Chanther watched it make short work of the rest of its prey and then leave. She didn't move until the hum of its wings had faded and the cavern was still, and then she slipped away, weaving between the paralyzed bodies of its victims and into the tunnels beyond. If she was very lucky, she'd make it to the surface and behind the doors of her cottage before it returned. If she was luckier than that, it wouldn't pick up her scent. Daylight was a relief as the hum of wings grew closer, but Chanther got the door closed behind her before the Havarex arrived. Some secret project. The voice made her jump, and her hand flew to the latch, preparing to open the door again until she remembered what lay outside. Wizard Searle, she said, pushing home the bolt in case the Havarex had worked out how to open doors. What a lovely surprise. How he'd tracked her this far was beyond her, but tracked her he had, and now there'd be hell to pay. He was sitting at her kitchen table, a pot of tea on the table and 2 cups set out. He'd also helped himself to the cookie jar and set a dozen on a small plate between them. "Won't you take a seat?" he asked, the first glimmer of amusement infusing his voice. "I take it you don't have somewhere else to be." The hum of wings outside the cottage confirmed that. Reluctantly, Chanther came and sat opposite him, aware he watched her every step, willing to bet he had his wand ready to stop any attempt to escape. "I still have your item," she said, and he smiled. "I know." Chanther stared. He did? The wizard poured them both a cup of tea and offered milk and sugar, both of which he'd obtained from her stores. "Now," he said, and Chanther felt the colour drain from her face. She waited, realized he wanted a response, and managed a slightly squeaky "yes." "There are penalties for stealing." Chanther knew that. What she didn't know was why there wasn't a squad of guard waiting at her door to arrest her. The wizard studied her face and answered, as though reading her mind. But I have a proposal of my own. Chanther swallowed and nodded, signaling that he should continue. His smile slowly faded as he obliged. I need an apprentice. She was out of her seat, her cup rattling in its saucer before he could say any more. I'll not be your slave. He shrugged and took another sip of tea. Apprenticeship is not slavery, although it may seem like it. And you'll come out a wizard at the end, but the choice is yours. I've heard the quarry is offered if you'd rather not lose a hand. The quarry. It was as close to a death sentence as anything else. Chanther stared and then came slowly back to her seat. Why me? Searle sipped his tea, observing her over the rim of his cup. I need an apprentice, and suitable candidates are thin on the ground. Certainly none are volunteering. Chanther wanted to tell him there was a reason for that, but decided against it. An apprenticeship, huh? She glanced around the cottage. I'll miss this place, she said, and the wizard grinned. But not the neighbours, he said, indicating the loud buzzing outside. No, Chanther agreed. He set his cup down and held out his hand. Then come, he said, and she reached out and took it.